at the end of the day, there's no reason just not to do this. You're just kind of leaving potential money on the table, right? And it takes, as you kind of said, it takes a minute. It's kind of just, you already published to YouTube, you already published to Spotify, you published to Twitter, you're just kind of adding one more segment, that's going to take another minute or two. That could have tremendous upside, right? Like I think as you guys have seen, there's really unlimited amount of upside when you release that piece of content on chain, and you have like this massive design space to leverage on-chain incentives to get people to collect and engage with your podcast on a new level. So yeah, I think the short answer is just, there's no reason not to do this. You're not at risk at anything. You're just kind of taking that 1 minute to publish it on chain and share it as part of like your standard, publishing flow.
Welcome to the Edge Podcast. I'm DeFi Dad here with Nomadic from 4RC. Today's show spotlights the bull case for on-chain media. In this episode, we interview the co-founder of pods.media, offering creators and fans a new way to publish, discover, and own your favorite podcasts. But before we do, just a quick word from our sponsors who make the Edge Podcast possible. Introducing REDSTONE, the fastest growing oracle for DeFi. REDSTONE is the leading oracle for liquid staking and restaking assets, supporting over 60 chains with both the push and pull models. REDSTONE protects more than $3 billion of total value locked and is trusted by more than 100 clients, including the biggest protocols in DeFi, such as Pendle, Venus, EtherFi, and Athena. The unique modular design of REDSTONE makes their price feeds available cross-chain, including EVM, non-EVM, roll-up networks, and all types of app chains. REDSTONE aims to bring the industry forward by supporting upcoming Bitcoin staking tokens and continues to be the #1 oracle provider for liquid staking and restaking tokens. Soon the team will unveil the highly anticipated REDSTONE token to decentralize the protocol. Learn why Nomadic and I rely on REDSTONE for our favorite DeFi apps at REDSTONE.finance and join the REDSTONE expedition today. Power up your portfolio by borrowing, lending, and multiplying your favorite assets, made safe and easy by the industry-leading automation tools at SUMMER.FI. SUMMER.FI offers a curated DeFi experience to access the highest quality protocols and strategies. Discover new earn strategies for your portfolio in a user-friendly app designed to filter based on the tokens you hold, the networks you transact on, the protocols you trust, and the highest available yields. Learn more today at SUMMER.FI, the best place to borrow and earn in DeFi. Tired of hopping between tabs, searching for new tokens before the hype catches on? Try MATCHA.XYZ, the DEX aggregator from 0x. Matcha connects hundreds of DEXs so you can trade millions of tokens and find fresh new drops. Matcha works out the best route to save you money on every trade. Swaps are free and Matcha has everything you need to trade on-chain. Gasless swaps, limit orders, and cross-chain, all in one place. Search Trade Done at MATCHA.XYZ. Discover MERLIN Chain, the cutting-edge Bitcoin Layer 2, trusted with over $2 billion in total value locked. MERLIN revolutionizes Bitcoin by unlocking its true potential with native L1 assets, lightning-fast transactions, and ultra-low fees on an EVM-compatible network. Elevate your Bitcoin experience with MERLIN Chain today at merlinchain.io. All right, let's introduce the co-founder of pods.media. Lucas, welcome to the Edge Podcast. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. It's great to be here with both of you.
So this is an excuse for us to hang out with Lucas. I would say, Lucas, you've been a friend for years. Your start at Bankless is probably a good place for us to kick off. You've contributed so much content to the crypto space, the DeFi space. I've had the pleasure of collaborating with you over the years. Now, we as the Edge Podcast, we've been publishing all of our podcasts since January 1st, 2024. We've been publishing on pods.media. It's a great place for people to start to dog food on-chain media. The podcast today is going to be around the bull case for on-chain media. And there's no one better suited to talk to us about this than Lucas as a co-founder of, I think, the leading podcasting platform, potentially the leading content platform for those of us who are early adopters of on-chain media. This is going to be a great conversation for us to learn from you. So, Lucas, I mentioned Bankless. Like, tell us a little bit more about some of the work you did there. And yeah, obviously there's dots that connect there to why you founded Pods. So would love to get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in crypto in 2017, 2018. I was still in college at the time, ended up graduating, kind of scrapping together, writing for different blogs. My good friend Cooper Turley, we ended up starting writing for a blog called DeFi Rate in 2019, 2020. And we really got a first class seat on the rise of DeFi. And we were covering, we were writing 5 articles every week. We were covering, MakerDAO, Uniswap, UMA when it was being launched, all that kind of stuff. And fortunately, Ryan Sean Adams, the founder of Bankless, was kind of following along with my work, offered me to write for the newsletter, wrote about 3 to 4 pieces. And then from there, he offered me, a job at Bankless, which ended up being the first employee there. And I ended up taking over the newsletter. So I worked at Bankless for about 3 years, on the dot almost, and helped scale that media company from, less than 10,000 subscribers to, 250,000, 500,000, wherever they're at, as of a year ago. So, through that journey, I learned a lot. But one of the things that I had an issue with, and this is not just Bankless, this is really everyone, was all of these crypto media companies, all these crypto bros, for lack of a better word, were talking all day, every day about how amazing this technology is. And then they would cut to ads. And I really kind of, if for lack of a better way to say it, everyone was talking the talk, but not walking the walk, right? I went down this rabbit hole of, okay, what does on-chain media look like? What does a Web3 media company look like? And I went down this rabbit hole in 2021 or so. And one of the foundational things that I kind of came to was, look, all of this content should be on chain, right? It should be ownable by the community, and you can monetize directly from your fans. And on top of that, you get to build a social graph or a leaderboard of your biggest fans, right? You get insights on the individuals behind your audience. Better yet, you can also continue to run the exact same playbook that everyone else is running. You can run ads, you can run exclusive content, you can run the Patreon, you can run the Substack, you can do everything that you're doing. This is just an entirely net new surface area for media and a way to monetize and engage your fans on a new level. So begged Ryan and David for a year or so to let's publish some content on chain, please. And they were like, of course, no one's going to, collect this. It's not going to work. I think rightfully so, rightfully skeptical of the program. But then we really saw music NFTs having a moment. And it was, at the end of the day, I was like, Ryan, David, this is an audio file and a cover image. This is exactly what a podcast is. Like, there might be likes here. Let's give it a shot. So we ended up releasing about 20 episodes on chain as NFTs under the name of Bankless Collectibles. And through that, we ended up, doing really well. There was like a meaningful amount of money being made. The collector community, the Bankless fan base really enjoyed it. But the problem was that the tech stack didn't scale. We were on ETH mainnet, if you can believe it. So people were paying absurd gas fees. We had to charge like 0.05 to 0.07 ETH per collectible per, episode. And obviously if you release, 52 podcasts every year, once a week, that really starts to add up. It's just not sustainable with the gas fees, with the pricing, all that kind of stuff. On top of that, these were built on like ERC 721s. And by the end of the year, you'd had 50 to 100 plus independent Ethereum contracts. And it just started to become a nightmare after like 20 or 25 of them to really manage. So that's when I decided to take a step back and build Pods. So from the ground up, a platform for tokenizing or releasing podcasts on chain. And it was built from the ground up, focusing entirely on podcasts to provide the best in-class experience to do that. And I started Pods, went full-time on it in May of last year. So we're a little over a year and a half. And then to date, we have about 75 podcasts, including this one, which will be on chain. And we've probably closing in about $1 million of volume on the platform, generating about 600 to 700K directly for creators, which is fantastic. And I think we're also probably be across 1,000 episodes on chain and minted on the platform. So we're quickly growing a large catalog of episodes. So yeah, just threw a lot at you, but I'll pause there.
Yeah, some of the numbers are really great for us to brag about here because this platform has real product market fit. Like being totally transparent, when we started publishing the podcasts, I mean, part of it is I know that when you're excited about something, excited enough that you're like dedicating your life now to like building a platform around it, I'm like, all right, I should just listen to Lucas and do as he says. So we started publishing the podcast just because I know better than to question Lucas. However, the traction now that you have, like if you're looking at the homepage, pods.media, and God knows what this will be when folks listen to this in the future, but there are trending podcasts, and you can see that those trending podcasts, there's like 6,000 to 7,000 of these collected. I know from experience with our own pods being collected, when you look at the number of like unique collects, so number of unique wallets collecting too, it's mind-blowing that like it's something like 99% or so. So it's nice to see that, to know that like, you're getting that many more folks on board here, exploring, collecting podcasts. We at the Edge Podcast, like we've been offering the podcasts to be minted for 0 ETH. Part of that was, again, just thinking with Lucas about like, okay, how do we get people to collect these? Like, we're not generally, looking for folks to be like paying for it so that like we're generating revenue quite yet, just because we feel like this is still in an early adoption trend. But you can throw that all out the window, because there are teams like, I want to call out the Mint podcast, who have been putting up like really impressive numbers in terms of collecting. So I'm wondering, Lucas, like what is moving the needle to get creators like on board with this? Let's say like you got a podcast that is thriving. You've got listeners on a Web2 platform, and you're savvy enough to at least like, connect a crypto wallet. In this case, you connect a base L2 wallet, and then really just copy and paste the same information. I take the info from Spotify, YouTube, and I copy paste it in, and I'm probably doing something backwards there and should use like an RSS feature. But anyways, what's moving the needle to get more creators on board?
Yeah, I think right now we have deliberately focused on getting crypto podcasts on chain, but I think more broadly, there's really just no reason not to do this, right? These are collectibles, so no IP is at risk. You can run advertisements, you can run, exclusive content, you can, run your Patreon, you can run Substack. So there's really just no reason not to do this. Even if you're getting, no collects, you're still getting, at the end of the day, you're getting a self-sovereign RSS feed, right? You're getting, permanent storage for that content. You're getting net new distribution of like Onchain, which we can talk about a little bit more. But at the end of the day, there's no reason just not to do this. You're just kind of leaving potential money on the table, right? And it takes, as you kind of said, it takes a minute. It's kind of just, you already published to YouTube, you already published to Spotify, you published to Twitter, you're just kind of adding one more segment, that's going to take another minute or two. That could have tremendous upside, right? Like I think as you guys have seen, there's really unlimited amount of upside when you release that piece of content on chain, and you have like this massive design space to leverage on-chain incentives to get people to collect and engage with your podcast on a new level. So yeah, I think the short answer is just, there's no reason not to do this. You're not at risk at anything. You're just kind of taking that 1 minute to publish it on chain and share it as part of like your standard, publishing flow.
Lucas, I want to just back up again and have you just articulate your on-chain media bull thesis again. You touched on it, but I just want to make sure we kind of like nail the whole why again. And then the other part, if you can kind of answer this as well, offline, you were basically saying that you think all media is going to come on chain. Like I'm bullish on on-chain media now, but I got to admit, I'm not that bullish yet. So would love to hear that, like why you think that is the case as well.
Right. Yeah. As we kind of talked about, no reason not to do this. And like the rewards for doing this, right, are one, monetization. So you get this net new monetization scheme. But more importantly, what I think the value is here is that you get insights on the individuals behind your audience, right? Someone watching this YouTube video, all they can do is maybe like it, maybe they can comment it. They really don't have any way to express their affinity for you guys as a creator. It's really hard to understand, that there's a viewer right there, one viewer out of, the couple thousand that has been there since the very beginning, right? And supported you guys and liked and engaged on every single piece of content, you really don't get any insight on the individuals behind your fan base. Now, what Onchain Media allows you to do is it allows the individual to raise their hand and be like, yo, I really love this piece of content. I love you guys as a creator. I want to support you guys. And you kind of build this on-chain social graph of your biggest fans. So if you go to pods.media/edge, which is the Edge podcast, you're going to see the top collectors across all time, right? And there's a plenty of ENS names there that, you guys, you two can, start to reward, right? One thing that I would really like to think about that kind of puts the perspective is like the reward mechanism. So you have this social graph, you have all these ETH addresses of your biggest fans, of people that are engaging with your content. Now, let's say Mr. Beast had a Venmo account for every single person that engaged and supported his content. What would he be doing, right? The design space is massive. He'd be going absolutely ape shit, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, he would be doing the craziest stuff. On a more basic level, you can start to engage with that social graph in a brand new way, right? You can start to, you can create a token gated chat for anyone that collects the episode, can jump into Telegram, they verify that they own an NFT, and now you kind of have this more intimate community of your collectors. Maybe you want to allow them to start voting on the next piece of content, so the next guest, right? Where one NFT or one collect equals one vote on Joke Race or something like that. And we've seen content creators like Diana from Rehash do that. So like I said, there's a massive, design space here. You can start doing giveaways. You're going to give away 1 ETH every week to, some random collector, right? And then you're kind of you have this like way to engage with your audience that is net beneficial for both of you, right? It's entirely opt-in and you're not forcing it. You're not shoving it down their throat. We're not just like randomly cutting to a sponsor. Sorry, I'm ripping on the sponsors. I actually love them. I think they're very beneficial, but I think that there's more opportunity. And it's kind of just entirely opt-in for that collector. If they really want to support you, if they really want to engage with you, if you're providing the right incentives or the right carrot or the right access and status with you as a creator, there's definitely plenty of reasons to do this, right? And start supporting it. And for you guys, on the other end, you're getting, direct fan to creator monetization, and you're getting to understand your community on a new level. You entirely get this, you get this new dimension of understanding the audience, right? Like, you can understand that, on YouTube, you're going to see, we got 5,000, 10,000 views on this episode, primarily from the US. But you really don't know that someone watched this episode 5 times and it changed their life, you don't really have that level of ability to express yourself as an individual and as a fan, and you can't really reciprocate that love as a creator. Like, thank you so much to that fan that watched this 5 times, right? But you can say, wow, shout out to our top 3 collectors from the last episode, XYZ, ABC, and, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, you can start to engage with those individuals on a new level for supporting and loving your content, right? So that's really the power of this, is you get the monetization, you get the social graph, so you get to understand the individuals, and then you can reward those individuals on new ways that weren't possible because you have this ETH address, this verifiable address that you can kind of start to do anything with. And we can start to talk about some more of those reward mechanisms in a bit, but I'll pause there.
Well, we should shout out then some of our mentors. So SimmonsD.eth, thank you for minting 29 times, it looks like. 0xLucas.eth, whoever you are, you're a god, minting at least 25 times. It looks like KingSmile.eth, WinterChemistry.eth, and ETHDaily.eth. We need to, figure out a way to like get in touch, just to like talk with anyone who's interested. I don't know if any of these people like minting are interested to talk with us, but just would like love to get feedback like from them about, what should we be covering? Like, what sort of guests do you enjoy on the show? Maybe like what content do you not enjoy that we should, stop covering? One thing that we should just get right into then, because you mentioned some of these like ideas for engaging or rewarding listeners. We recently did a points campaign with Particle Network. And so I'm going to let Nomadic actually describe this, because to his credit, this is all his idea. He's been like beating down the door for like several months, saying like, yo man, like we need to do a collaboration with a team who can reward wallets that are minting with points. So anyways, Nomadic, do you want to like go into like the details of how did that actually work with Particle Network?
Yeah, well, Lucas was super helpful in this too, just kind of ideating this whole plan. But I think even what we did is just kind of scratching the surface for all of this. And I think to Lucas's points earlier, it shows you the kind of transformational power. And it's a totally different delivery mechanism. Like, I really do think on-chain, Web3 media is just, it's totally reimagined, and you can now do things, interact with, fans in a totally different way. So just to kind of explain what we did, and, huge shout out to Particle Network here too. They, to my knowledge, this is something that's never really been done. So they kind of took a bit of a leap of faith on us with this. So what we did is we kind of just wanted to tap into this points meta, and we offered up, in collaboration with Particle Network, anybody that would come to Pods and mint our Particle Network podcast on chain abstraction, we offered up 10,000 points, party points. And it essentially gets people into the airdrop meta via minting our NFT podcast. And it's something that we want to do a lot more. It's like a different level of engagement. And again, just kind of speaks to all the powers of, okay, now this thing is a collectible, but what else can you unlock with a collectible? And again, I think we're actually just scratching the surface. I have crazier ideas, but we just kind of got to try a few more of these things and kind of get this model down a bit more. But yeah, it's just like a fascinating design space, I think.
Yeah. And I think this model, like Adam Levy from Mint Podcast, is really, starting to uncover this. And what's really crazy to me is like how well this works and why everyone wins. Like, I still scratch my head on this. So let's break it down. On the collector side, obviously, if you collect the episode, you get 10,000 party points. Maybe that gives you an airdrop. Maybe that gets you something in the future. You kind of have this speculative reward for, giving you guys $1.50 or whatever that is, right? On the creator side, you're obviously receiving that mint fee. But also what's interesting is that you're getting more distribution on your content. And we'll talk about that in a second. But the third piece is that the project that's sponsoring it is getting more engagement on their content that's about them, right? And they're getting a verified list of wallets that engage with that specific piece of content that they can now reward in new ways, whether it is points. Maybe they want to give everyone that collected it beta access to, the next product or something like that, right? Now, the distribution and like why getting all this mint activity is really powerful for everyone, or for you guys as a creator and the project, is like, all right, if you can get 1,000 mints in an hour, you're going to show up at the top of mint.fun, okay? That's going to mint.fun gets 1 million, 2 million impressions every month, right? So if you get that top of the fold ad space right there, you're getting more exposure to your content. And then you're going to get some additional mint activity from that. And then maybe it goes and surfaces on Coinbase Wallet. And now you have all the Coinbase Wallet users maybe coming across your piece of content. And then that might show up on MetaMask or Zerion, or maybe there's a daylight notification to anyone that, engage with Particle Network. So you're tapping into this net new area to distribute your content, which is on-chain via on-chain activity. So as soon as you get that flywheel going, your content starts to show up in so many different places that you get net new kind of people coming in that are not only going to mint it, but are also going to listen to it. So the data that we have, on pods is that, and I thought this would be the inverse when I was in theory, is like the more listens you get, the more mints you're going to get. But if you can create a mechanism that's going to drive a ton of mint activity to your content, you're going to get more listens and more people engaging with your content. And you're going to have a few people that turn into fans that come back, week in and week out because they love that specific piece of content. Or for the the project that's helping kind of drive this virality, they might get more exposure to people to engage with that project on a new level, right? I might go set up a Particle Network wallet and start using Particle Network on a weekly basis because of that, because DeFi Dad expressed it, and because there was that on-chain incentive to get started. I already get those points, and now maybe I'm just going to start using that wallet all the time. So you kind of have this really amazing, like beautiful, like virality loop when you kind of leverage on-chain incentives to kind of bootstrap that initial initial traction, right? And you get net new distribution that didn't exist before. So you're not only getting on YouTube, but now your content for some reason is on Coinbase Wallet. Why is it on Coinbase Wallet? Well, it's because it's on-chain and it's mintable, right? So you kind of just have this net new distribution area that you can leverage, and you get more views, you get more listens, you get more mints, which, translates into all sorts of stuff for you guys.
Can you remind us, Lucas, like what's the average price for those like top trending mints? Because I've, always leaned on this assumption that we would stick to zero or near zero. I think we charged like 0.001 ETH at one point. We tried that out for a bit just to kind of see, but I've gone back to my assumption, like stick to zero, just because like we want the distribution, we want the engagement. We don't think we're like fully leveraging that engagement, to your point, yet. And as like a podcast creator, like we're not able to like prove that anyone's listening beyond like the simple download metrics that you get from like a Spotify or some other sort of podcasting platform.
Yeah, I want to touch on the download metrics for a second. So I was recently at a podcast conference like 2-3 weeks ago, and apparently last year was the biggest. He thought a crypto bear market was bad. It was the biggest bear market in podcast history. Why was that? Is because Apple was double or triple counting downloads because they were doing it across multiple devices. So your Apple Watch download and your phone download and your MacBook download were all counting. And so advertisers were under this false pretense of this podcast is getting 3 times more downloads, 2 to 3 more times downloads than actual people listening, right? So advertising revenue just got absolutely obliterated last year. And now it's just starting to recover. But what's interesting is that you can't fake the mint. You can't fake it. It's a transactional, thing, right? So to your earlier question, it's 0007 ETH, which is about $1.50. And that's really kind of just a mechanism so you just don't get spammed into oblivion, and it's $1.80. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty reasonable. Most of that, we have a very similar thing to Zora, where we have protocol rewards where that fee actually ends up going to you guys in return for driving that mint activity. We take a little bit. There's a mint referral. So it's kind of just like a base level mint. I think we need to do a better job on the platform level of like expressing that it's not an actual free mint. It is a free mint in the sense that the creator's not charging anything. So for like context, when we were doing the bankless stuff, we were charging 0.07 ETH. So we're 2 orders of magnitude higher than what the base fee is on pods, or like, the standard fee on Zora or anything else. So it's definitely a lot cheaper, and there's definitely that ability to price, higher if you can have that carrot, right? If that carrot is there and there's a reason to do it, Bankless is doing, very curated episodes of 100 editions. It was kind of, in the middle of the NFT PFP era. But yeah, so podcast downloads got absolutely scammed, and the mints you can't really fake because there's this like pricing mechanism. There's a base level price that you have to pay in order for that mint to count.
Hey everyone, before we get back to the show, excited to tell you about a new omni-chain Bitcoin solution called FBTC, which has already surpassed $125 million in TVL and become the fastest growing BTCFi asset this summer. The FBTC points campaign Sparkle offers sustainable yields plus points and token airdrops from strategic partners such as Babylon, Mantle's new token Cook, and more. To learn more, visit fbtc.com/ongoing-campaign. And special thanks to FBTC for sponsoring us at the Edge Podcast.
Lucas, so Onchain Media has spawned a whole new, I would say, style of marketing. I've been interacting with some of this as well on the side, just, journeying into Onchain Media myself. So we've been using things like boost.xyz. We've dabbled a little bit with Layer 3. One that I just found out today, which looks pretty interesting, is called Spindle. I'm going to be looking more into that. But maybe just kind of give us the lay of the land and like how there's kind of like 3 different archetypes that I see. There's like creators creating the content, and then there's this whole marketing side, and then there's users that are coming and minting. So maybe just kind of touch on this like marketing segment a little bit more, and how much different it is maybe than Web 2 as well.
Totally. I think for starters, like the basic ones to leverage are like these, on-chain social platforms. So Warpcast and Lens, right? So on the get-go, Twitter's a nightmare to promote links for anything, right? And you get absolutely wrecked by the algorithm. But you go and paste a link on Warpcast or something, and now you have this nice little frame that people can mint directly in line. They're not even leaving the app, right? So that's like a significantly better jump in your ability to market that content and get mint activity and listens, obviously. So yeah, leveraging on-chain social is one, very basic thing to do. And then you kind of touched on like the boost in layer 3. And this kind of starts to touch on like incentivizing, leveraging on-chain incentives to get people to engage with your content. And what that is people are putting up a token rebate. So, you'll receive, let's say the mint costs $1.80, you're going to receive $1 back in OP tokens or something like that. Now you have some upside in OP. OP might outperform ETH. You might end up actually receiving more in the future if you just hold on tight and ride the ride there, right? So we've seen a lot of success and like a lot of people interested in that mechanism where, they get a little bit of speculation outside of like also supporting you and engaging with the content. And then beyond that, yeah, I think that there's a bunch of other ones. Like Daylight is a really good one where they are really good at notifying people of a specific audience segment. So if you interview Jesse Pollock, you can submit that piece of content to Daylight and notify anyone that follows Jesse Pollock on WordCast or follows the base channel, right? And that actually converts. That's a non-incentive way to, get the content in the hands of the right people, in front of the right people, right? And then you just have like all these other platforms that we talked about that kind of index activity, so mint.fun is great. Interface is great. That kind of showcases every piece of activity. Couple other ones like Magic Eden just released a new platform or NFT minting platform. So you kind of get this net new area, right, to distribute the content. And there's definitely different levers to pull. And we can talk about like, the different levers that you might want to be pulling on and like to answer the why collect. But yeah, I think that there's a whole host of like content distribution, on-chain content distribution platforms that creators can start to tap into. Whether it is something like Boost or Layer 3 that's more financially speculative, or something like Daylight or Interface, which is more, socially driven.
Okay, so I've got a few like rapid fire questions for you. Some of these are just simpler stuff, but when will pods support video, or like would you ever support video?
Yeah, I think this is the biggest request from creators right now. So it's a priority in Q4 for us. We definitely want to support it. I think video podcasts have been on the rise. They're very popular right now. So obviously people want to, one, just upload that MP4 because they don't want to switch different file formats from, what you're uploading to YouTube or something. But also, yeah, people want to watch it directly on the platform. It's more engaging to see our faces, to see our reactions, and kind of have that level of, surface area to engage with the content. So yeah, video I think is a big thing for us. We get a request probably every day for it from creators. So it's really no secret that we'll end up, implementing it pretty soon here.
That's awesome. So when we publish the podcast, we have to publish it ourselves on YouTube, even though like I could go on and on about like why we should get off of YouTube and everyone should get off of YouTube. But a better tool for me is I used to go to anchor.fm, which now is Spotify. And so like when we basically like, copy in all the information there, it shoots it out to, multiple different channels that the podcast would be available on. Is that sort of like feature the ability to just upload on pods? Like, is that something that you guys would be adding anytime soon?
Yeah, so we actually support that right now. Now, the caveat is that it's only for new podcasts, right? So we created what I believe is the first on-chain RSS feed. So we generate an RSS feed based on an 1155 Ethereum contract, and all of the metadata matches in RSS. So any podcast that's just getting started, hey, like I'm a new podcast, we haven't published our first episode, we can actually do the syndication to Spotify and Apple because of that feature. So you're publishing on-chain and online in a single flow. On the other side of it, so for someone like Anchor or like you that's using Anchor, or the podcasters for Spotify or Spotify for podcasters, I always flip it. We can easily import, your RSS feed. So you're publishing in 2 clicks. And that's kind of like a private feature right now. But a lot of our creators are using it, so that they're pretty much publishing on chain in 2 clicks, right? They don't have to do the copy and pasting. They select that episode and it imports and fits, all the info perfectly.
So Lucas, since we're publishing, like I'm manually going in and pasting all of the details into like each new episode that we upload to Pods. Is there some sort of like setting then that I would just click to, start using that as like a home base? Like, could I skip using the Spotify podcasters, Anchor.fm legacy tools?
Yeah, so that's kind of the last leg of the feature that we need to build out is like, if you have a RSS feed already, can we just do like the redirect so we kind of take over that hosting? Because what you don't want is you to create a net new RSS feed that people are already following, or like people are following your existing one, and then you're now only publishing to the Pods one. So we need to implement like this redirect effectively where we can take over that hosting service. So yeah, that feature is not live yet, but the publishing flow for an existing podcast with an existing RSS is pretty straightforward. You just had to ask me for the super secret beta link for that.
Lucas, can you also just dumb down for someone who's just listening to podcasts, like what is RSS feed? Like how does that benefit listeners or like fans of a podcast?
Yeah, so the RSS feed is really at the end of the day, it's just like this open publishing protocol, right? And it used to be used for every piece of content. Like Twitter was just an RSS reader, right? So if you published a blog, Twitter would post it automatically. Unfortunately, Chris Dixon actually highlights this really well in his book, Read, Write, Own, about like some of the falls, they're the fallbacks of the RSS and kind of where it failed. But at the end of the day, podcasting is like the last standing media vertical that relies on this. So the RSS is kind of used as this public way for, the Spotify's, the Apples, all of these podcast players to index and support listening to your podcast. So it's kind of like this feed that hosts all of the media, it hosts the description, the title, and everyone just indexes it or supports it on their little podcast player. And now you can listen to the podcast. And so the second you publish a new episode or a new piece of content, it automatically goes to all these different platforms because they're all indexing your RSS feed. So that's really all it is just a public way to view and consume content.
Catch the tide of the mainnet launch of Puffer Finance. Whether you're an Ethereum staker or an aspiring node operator, Puffer delivers the decentralization revolution with its cutting-edge technology. Start with just 2 ETH to unlock the potential of native liquid restaking and maximize your earnings. Join the movement now and anchor your stake at puffer.fi.
At Moonbeam, we're building a world where the wonders of decentralized technology are accessible to everyone. We're advancing Web3 integration through product enhancements, funding for innovation, and investment in our partner ecosystem. Our product roadmap includes ZK initiatives, tokenomics updates, and 8x throughput. Our $10 million innovation fund invests in startups that deliver cutting-edge solutions for RWAs and Web3 gaming. And our partner ecosystem continues to grow through grants and incentives. Moonbeams is delivering frictionless user and builder experiences to create the future of the internet on-chain. Join us by participating in the Moonrise campaign today.
Lucas, so I've been thinking through like why somebody would go to the effort. I know it's easy, but to mint something or collect something on chain when they can maybe just get it for free from Spotify or like another, venue that's maybe even probably more frictionless. But I then thought of like, are we seeing people posting content solely on chain now? Is that like a trend that you're starting to see at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing like some inklings of it, of some people that are just only posting on chain. I think the thing is, especially for pods, is that you have no reason not to syndicate it to Spotify and Apple and all the other podcast players to get that additional distribution and discovery. So I think that there is an angle where people are publishing on chain first, and that's their primary mechanism. But I think the level of distribution that you kind of get in Web2, using YouTube, using Spotify, is just like you can't compete with that right now. But we do see like people using on chain as like the first way to go. Like Cooper, I think, has done a couple episodes where he publishes the episode on chain first, for a few days, and then it's available on Spotify, a couple days later. So you kind of get the first glimpse of the episode if you're there on chain and supporting it. So yeah, I think we'll see it more and more. And I think the industry as a whole has done this massive 0 to 1 in bringing content on chain. We're seeing, massive creators like, doodles, which, they go viral all the time on Instagram and TikTok. They're bringing that content on chain. They're minting it on Zora. So I think just that idea right now is probably the main focus, is like, how do we actually get all this content on chain? And then I think we'll definitely see a cohort of these net new creators that are like on-chain native, right? They're only publishing on chain. They're kind of leveraging these unique incentive mechanisms in different ways that kind of are going to outpace, any earnings or any like engagement than any Web2 creator, right? I think at the end of the day, it's inevitable, because you get this net new mechanism of speculation, effectively, for lack of a better word, that you can tap into in a healthy way, right? And as we kind of, I think, talked about earlier, is like Mr. Beast is leveraging speculation for his content already, But if he had Venmo access or a Venmo account for everyone that engaged with his content, he would probably be doing 10x the numbers right now, because he'd have a direct creator relationship on how to engage with those people financially for supporting his content. So yeah, to answer your question, I think we haven't seen it that much. We see some creators publishing on-chain first, but only on-chain, I think, is still something that you kind of need to solve the distribution side a little bit more before we get there, before it's, that compelling.
I think the thing I love about pods is that, like, you can wax on, we can wax on all we want about, like, well, you should worry about being deplatformed from like these legacy platforms. And, you want to get more direct access to your listeners through something like pods. Like you want to have the power of Web3, like that's the compelling motive here. But really, like, I feel like you guys have leaned into, hey, there's really clever distribution and engagement here for creators that you just don't get with the Web2 platforms. And on the flip side of that, if you're a listener, especially with crypto podcasts, because, like, again, the community it's a pretty tight-knit community. Even though, like, it's grown a lot, we all kind of share like a lot of like similar sort of principles and core values, which again creates a really like tight-knit sort of community. So the ability to engage with those creators, like, I remember Laura Shin just fawning over her. I still do. I still think she's like the best there is in the business. Laura's podcast was, for me, I felt like it was life-changing. I just felt like the information she gave me like really helped me to like understand why I thought crypto was powerful, why I wanted to like work in the space, why I wanted to invest, for better or worse, even though I'm sure she didn't mean to give me any sort of financial advice. And like, that is exactly the mindset I imagine for like new folks still coming into the space. Like, they discover something and you feel a connection, you feel some gratitude to creators in the space, and you can't do much. All I could do myself was like tweet out her podcasts. And, I actually met her at a conference. I was lucky enough to run into her and just tell her, like, I just think you're the greatest thing ever. But like, that was just, my path. Whereas like, I would have absolutely been minting the hell out of her podcast on pods, which, by the way, she's on pods.media as well. So it's the future. This is why we're so bullish on on-chain media, and you got to get on pods.media. So this is where I think we should close out the podcast. And so I want to remind listeners, go to pods.media/edge and mint the hell out of this podcast. That's the best way that you can support us or support the work that Lucas is doing. Make sure on the legacy platforms, Twitter, I'll say still follow like a pods.media, follow 0x_Lucas. But you should also follow and get into the channel there that is Pods on Farcaster. That's a great place to engage with others that are like collecting pods on pods.media. And then Lucas, thanks so much, man. Always a pleasure to get to talk with you. We've just been blown away by the product market fit you've uncovered. And like, in a matter of 6 months, it's been a real game changer for us. Like, we're truthfully trying to figure out if we can find ways to publish more exclusively on pods.media versus the legacy platforms where we feel like we have very little skin in the game there.
Totally. I mean, I think, we've been blown away by the level of support and just like all the creators that have been getting on chain and just like their level of enthusiasm for it. And I think it's like a closing thing, like the world is coming on chain, right? Like, whether it is dollars or, these niche meme coins or stocks, bonds, commodities, pieces of art via NFTs, PFPs, like media is no different, right? There's no reason not to put this stuff on chain. There's a host of benefits when you do that we've talked about, ad nauseum on this podcast. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm really fired up that the, industry is coming on board with this, because a year ago or 2 years ago, this is unheard of. People were like, why would you put content on chain? And now it's no longer a why, and it's more like, how do we do this in the best way possible? So I'm really stoked on you guys and all these other creators that are really, taking that leap right now.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you're a talented founder or developer, please consider reaching out to our team at fourthrevolution.capital. And for future episodes of the Edge podcast, please check out our link tree at edge_pod.